A professional athlete just said some of the most disgusting anti-gay, anti-trans bull I have ever heard. And so far, he has faced 0 consequences. Like, his big money-making event is still set to take place, still at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, and it's still in 2 days. So, TikTok? It might be time to do your thing. Let me tell you why. This human thumb, Sean Strickland, yeah, the guy in the Women Belong in the Kitchen t-shirt, so original. He is an MMA fighter. And yesterday, MMA journalist Alexander Lee asked him about disgusting comments he had made in the past about the LGBTQ community. Specifically that time that Strickland said if he had a gay son, it would mean he failed as a man. This seems like a guy who's super secure in his masculinity. Anyways, before Lee could even finish his question, Strickland launched into a gnarly tirade.
But when have you ever seen a UFC champion, George St. Pierre, or anybody else stick up for you guys? I can do it. I do it. I am not chasing the Chinese check mark of Nike. I don't give a about that. I care about you guys. I care about you guys being free. I care about you guys having freedom of speech. I give about you guys. And I'll tell you what, you guys are awesome, and I cannot wait. And this man fucking go to war for you guys. Let's go.
Well, buckle up, folks, because we've got to dive headfirst into the wild world of UFC. So, UFC 297 just wrapped up, and guess what? Trump didn't make a grand entrance this time around. You know, he's been strutting into the last few big UFC events like he's the main attraction, soaking up those massive standing ovations. But hold on to your hats, because something unexpected went down at UFC 297, and it all unfolded in the Great White North, Canada, Picture this, the UFC arena in Canada was buzzing with excitement, but it wasn't just about the bone-crushing fights. Oh no, my friends, it was something even more special, a moment that'll be etched in the annals of UFC history. What was it, you ask? Well, let me tell you, the crowd erupted into a chorus of Trudeau chants. Yes, you heard it right. The audience, fueled by who knows what, seized the opportunity to let their feelings be known about the Canadian Prime Minister. Now, that, my friends, is a special moment, to say the least. Just imagine the atmosphere in that arena, electrifying, hilarious, and downright unforgettable. A twist in the UFC tale that you never saw coming. Trump may have taken a rain check, but the fans in Canada sure brought their A-game with those Trudeau chants. UFC 297 turned into a spectacle beyond the fights, and who would have thought that a political chant would steal the spotlight?
Young Jamie. Fuck Trudeau.
I was at the UFC?
Yelling, fuck Trudeau.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
That guy's
Canada,
a piece of shit.
Canada, get your shit together. Come back. Come back to what you used to be. That Pierre Polivier guy, however you say his name, that guy makes sense.
He's also Fidel Castro's kid. We know. I'm not a big conspiracy guy. Come on, Eddie, back me up on this. Educate him.
It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy.
He looks
his
a
mom,
lot like
crazy.
Castro.
Look at
his
the
mom.
But here's the thing. Realistically, I've looked at this. He also looks like his dad. His dad looks like Castro. His dad's very similar in facial structure to Castro.
But explain the mom going to
hanging
Cuba.
out, and he's got
9 months before
Fidel's holding him. Going,
That's why it's fun. That's why it's a fun theory.
And she's on the flight logs so many times.
This could all be solved with a very simple DNA test. With if I would do, if someone was accusing my dad of being Castro, if someone said, "Hey, your grandfather was Mussolini," I'd be like, "No, what are you talking about?" Yeah, look, your grandma fucked Mussolini. You think your grampy, the guy that used to take you fishing, you think that was your grandfather? No, your grandfather was Mussolini. I'd be like, no.
And then,
they
showed you a picture. Then they showed you a picture of Mussolini holding you. You'd be like, "Oh shit, it's looking pretty great."
Guess what, folks? The Trudeau chants made a grand entrance at UFC 297, and let me tell you, it was nothing short of spectacular. Picture this, the energy, the vibe, the sheer audacity. It was a glorious moment that left everyone buzzing with excitement. But hold on, let's rewind a bit and delve into the juicy details leading up to this unforgettable UFC saga. Now, before UFC 297 even kicked off, there was more drama than a reality TV show. What stole the spotlight, you ask? Well, it wasn't the main card fight between Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis, oh no. The real theatrics unfolded around Sean Strickland and his comments on social and political issues. Brace yourself, it's a roller coaster. So, there we were, eagerly anticipating a showdown between two warriors, and what do we get? A reporter decides to stir the pot by prompting Sean Strickland to share his thoughts on LGBTQ issues. Now, we all know Strickland isn't one to shy away from expressing himself, but this was a whole new level of fireworks. The reporter probably thought it would be a walk in the park, but oh boy, was he in for a surprise. In classic Strickland fashion, he didn't hold back. His response wasn't just a mere opinion, it was a comedic masterpiece. The woke reporter, thinking he could navigate the treacherous waters of political correctness, soon found himself in over his head. Why on earth would you bring up a topic that has absolutely zero connection to a fist-flinging, adrenaline-pumping fight? It's like asking a cat about the meaning of life, utterly pointless and bound to end in chaos. The tension leading up to the main card fight had less to do with fighting strategies and more to do with the aftermath of Strickland's verbal onslaught. The UFC community was buzzing with memes, jokes, and a newfound appreciation for Strickland's unfiltered candor. The fight itself? Well, that was just the cherry on top of this comedic spectacle.
Yeah. Sean, we were talking before about how you have so much respect from your teammates, from peers. You said you've had great interaction with fans pretty much all the time. I did want to ask, you're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear it's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
You got like, yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not going to say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not going to say, like if you ask him, motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not going to say. That's none of your business. He voted for Biden.
Sean,
hey,
Sean, I'm glad you've had great experiences.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada.
Sure.
All right.
That's what it's got to be. It's got to be. We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse...
Are you... Let me know, are you gay?
Can I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking, this is a part of... Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak man, dude. You're part of the problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like you're just pathetic. And the fact that you have no backbone and has he shut down your country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid like that, go yourself. Move the on, man.
The liberal sports media, led by the oh-so-dramatic Dan Le Batard show, threw a colossal fit over Sean Strickland's remarks. Yep, they were clutching their pearls and going on about hate, bigotry, homophobia, transphobia, the whole shebang. Like they were on a mission to save the world, they started hollering for Dana White to slap a big old censor bar on his fighters, or, better yet, for Disney or ESPN to swoop in like superheroes and give these fighters a stern talking to. Because, allowing fighters to freely express themselves is apparently a crime against humanity in their playbook. Oh, the drama.
That is bullshit that we allow that. It's bullshit. And we can't ignore it. And we should. If there isn't going to be a punitive measure, let's move on. Move the fuck on.
But there can't be a punitive measure, Mike, if the person in charge doesn't feel anything in the way of pressure. Like, there has to be the outrage and the reaction to it. Now, I understand that the reaction these days to the outrage is to simply say, you're too sensitive. You want to cancel me. This isn't freedom, you being outraged by every little thing. But this kind of speech is not a little thing.
He's wearing a T-shirt that says, women go back in the kitchen. Well, like, what are we doing? Like that's not... Look, we haven't even touched on that. That's hatred of 40 years ago. We kind of got past that. And now we're just rehashing it because there has been a change. And it's the same people that asked for politics to be kept out of sports and have introduced this vile hatred into it while being platformed, while being legitimized as the former president of the United States sits next to Dana White, the head of their company, at big marquee events. It's just as it's on ESPN. I asked Jimmy Pitaro, what gonads are you going to show me in this instance? Because that pay-per-view is on ESPN+. That is on ESPN+. And I know Disney is an inclusive company. I worked for it. You say nothing? You know what? You were right, Dan. I'll walk it back. End of the segment. I have to change my mind on something. I'm glad you made us play that video, because while the UFC isn't going to do anything about it, I would challenge ESPN to make a public statement on this, because that kind of hate is going over their airwaves. The Walt Disney Company.
Dana White, the fearless leader of the MMA realm, faced off against a woke reporter armed with questions about supposed homophobic and transphobic comments from his fighters. The sizzling debate revolved around whether Dana was ready to tighten the leash on his fighters. Apparently, in the world of free speech, Dana had generously granted his fighters a leash so long it could rival a giraffe's neck. But hold your horses, because Dana White wasn't about to let the reporter's spiel take root in the octagon of his opinions. Check out the epic showdown.
Ever consider going to those guys and saying, hey, this might be the one time you need to tone it down?
This might be the one time you need to what?
Tone it down, the trash talk.
I don't tell anybody to do anything. I don't try to control any other human beings in any way, shape, or form. They do it I say it all the time, we're in the fight business, and, you know, if you get your feelings hurt that bad, you probably shouldn't ask the type of questions when you know the answer you're going to get from Strickland. Let's start there. You know what I mean? If you ask him, you know who he is, and if you ask him a certain question, he was baited in that question.
I'm not, sorry, my mistake. Not referring to that question, just, you know, Strickland got a little...
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
I know what you asked me. It is what it is. It's the fight business, man.
Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, you know, what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
Like...
Free speech. Control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe. Going to tell people... I don't fucking tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want, and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any... We had two gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a shit what Sean Strickland thinks, or what he says, or what his beliefs are, or what his opinions are. You know what I mean? Go ahead. What do you got?
Oh man, did you catch that absolutely spot-on response from Dana White? Classic Dana, right? I mean, I get it. Some folks might not see him as their cup of tea, but personally, I think he's the perfect ringmaster for the UFC circus. Imagine if we had someone with less guts, someone afraid to take on the liberal media and the establishment. We'd probably end up with a UFC that resembles, I don't know, the NFL or the NBA, you know, where athletes are only allowed to be woke. Can you imagine fighters only throwing woke punches and adhering to woke submission holds? It's like a bad dream. And let's talk about consequences, oh boy. When athletes were spouting anti-police rhetoric, the woke media turned a blind eye to the real-world chaos it caused. But heaven forbid a fighter speaks their mind about something unrelated to the fight, suddenly, everyone acts like they've just discovered fire. You can throw around terms like homophobia, bigotry, and transphobia all you want, but guess what? Fighters have the right to feel however they feel. Don't like it? Don't ask questions that lead them there. It's UFC, for crying out loud. The most testosterone-soaked sport out there. If you can't handle it, stay out of the ring and away from the reporters. I love how Dana White runs the show. He's like, speak your mind, fighters. None of that endorsing a certain type of speech nonsense. Other sports organizations could learn a thing or two. In the UFC, you can be as woke as you want or take a right-leaning position, it's all good. Dana doesn't play favorites. And come on, let's not kid ourselves. People love the raw, uncomfortable, and uncut vibe of the UFC. That's why it's successful. Shout out to Dana for not bowing to the pressure to put a leash on his fighters. Let them talk, let them be raw, and let the testosterone flow. That's the secret sauce right there. Cheers to Dana White, the unsung hero of Unfiltered Sports.